So first things first, I want to ask you is when you wake up in the morning today,
Mhm.
what is it that just makes your heart sing for the day ahead of you?
Today I've got this podcast and I get to be on another really cool podcast and I'm heading to the barber shop. I'm really excited to head to the barber shop today as well. But generally speaking, I'm really blessed that I get to kind of decide what I want to do with my days. So I run through the things I'm going to be doing, which is generally going to be doing some podcasting, creating some content, connecting with some really, really cool people. So I'm always excited about the problems I'm going to get to people to support people solving that day, the growth that I'm going to see as a result of that, and what I'm going to learn about myself.
Mm, awesome. I like how you added that, the growth that I'm going to experience. Let's go. Let me ask you a question. So my goal is to get as many people meditating as possible, right? For 10 minutes a day.
I
You know
think
where
I know
I'm
where this
going
one's
with
going. I know where you're going with this one.
it. I have to get this out of the way first. So why have you said that people should stop meditating?
Okay, so this is deliberately worded the way it is
Sure.
because I didn't say don't meditate. I was saying to cease the practice of meditating, but the practice of meditation should be part of a holistic approach to how we create our reality and how we live our lives.
Mm,
Now, I'm sure that you don't want people to meditate just for meditating's sake. You want them to meditate because of the power that's available to those who include meditation as part of their practice, to the peace of mind, to the rounding off of energy, the emotional balance, all of that good, juicy stuff. But if we just leave all of that practice in the realm of meditation, or just stay in the realm of meditation and don't actually move into our lives and translate it into our lives, then what was the point? So my thing isn't to stop the practice of meditating. I, like you, want as many people as possible to meditate because it just works. But once you've had your practice of meditation, take all of that goodness and start applying it to an abundant, joyful, purpose-driven life that's actually well lived.
mm. I guess that leads us to our next question is what do you mean by that? Can you elaborate a little further? Like, how did you do that?
Well, one of the cornerstones of what I teach is something that I call alignment. And alignment really comes down to aligning to the intention that we have for our lives, which I feel is best served by being brought forward from a space of heart and mind coordination. So, listening to the heart, creating a container for that with verbalizing it, obviously speaking through the throat chakra, the word becomes flesh. So, setting clear intentions, clear goals based on what our heart is singing, where our passions are, where our desires are. Once we've started to do that, we then move into obviously the first point of contact between non-physical and physical is vibration or emotional state. This is where the meditation practice comes in. It allows us to have some dominion over what we're doing with our vibration, with our emotional state, with our energy bodies. But then we also have thought processes. We have the mind, the mental space. That's another aspect of ourselves. And then we have our physical body. For the word to be made flesh, for the non physical to be made physical, it must be received and embodied in the physical. That's where the action piece comes in. So when I'm saying to people in relation to this work of alignment,
Yeah.
carry it through, take the meditation and go on, go and live a real life. I mean, we've manifested in human form to have a physical experience. If we spend, let's say your kids are young now, they get
Yeah.
to teens, time for them to go to camp. You send them off to camp, but every day they come running home and don't actually enjoy the camp experience, then they're not going to get the camp experience. It's for them to go and have the camp experience and then come back having gained those experiences, had that adventure, learnt those life lessons, made new friends and all that good stuff. Depending on which school of thought you're coming from, ultimately what it comes down to is this is camp. This is the holiday. But if we spend every day just running back home, then we're not going to fully embody and fully have the experience. So an abundant, joyful, purpose-driven life for me is a rounded off human experience. Abundant because abundance is our natural state. Purpose-driven because we're being directed rather than being led by our unconscious mind. And joyful because joy is where it's at, and we should just be having a joyful life.
Yeah. I love that analogy that you use of just coming back like that, like a camp. That makes total sense. And you can see why, I talk to a lot of people. I have a lot of individuals reach out to me about how can I start meditating? What can I do? And it seems like there's a lot of fall off that occurs. And for you to bring up the point of or the awareness around aligning it with the rest of our life, or actually putting intention behind why we're meditating and what we're using it for, or the purpose, instead of just doing it to do it.
Mhm, mhm,
Right.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
I think that's where the fall off is for a lot of people, which is
I'd agree.
really interesting about how I will now um, use my words in conversation on newbies, right?
Beautiful,
Starting. That's cool.
beautiful, beautiful,
That
beautiful.
is really cool. What brought you such a spiritual? Let's get a little, at least let people listening get to know you a little bit. I know you were diagnosed at the age of 20 with Asperger's, which you say was a traumatic experience for you. I'm not sure how life or what happened since then. You want to give us a little flashback?
So I'd spent a lifetime with severe insomnia, severe anxiety related issues, a lot of loneliness and depression because I just couldn't connect with people. Um, Things kept going wrong wherever there was a human relationship involved, whether it's romantic, business. And I look at all of these challenges and I see they came from the fact that I didn't understand from myself that I just needed a framework in how to relate to people. Um, the the thing that happened at 20 wasn't even really the Asperger's actually came in at 27. What happened at 20
Okay.
was when I first lost everything. So I first lost everything at 20 and actually built up with some guys a business, a multi-million pound business by the age of 20. And then
I was going to say at 20, like most people don't even have anything to lose. So this is
yeah, yeah,
interesting that you had something to lose at 20.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Well, cool. That's you're an entrepreneur at an early age, huh?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I've only had two jobs in my life. Once I worked in movies when I was a teenager. I actually didn't need the job. I had actually taught myself to make computers, and I was making and selling computers. But
Neat.
I liked working. I love movies, so I got to see movies, and I actually enjoyed the job. So anyway, that's another story.
Any
Completely
movies that I
unrelated. So
know that you were in, maybe?
no, not in, unfortunately. But I lost everything, and that was a big blow. But even when I look at that, had I known about myself and had a framework for dealing with people, I probably wouldn't have. It probably wouldn't have been such a messy experience for me. So the Asperger's diagnosis came in at 27, and that actually saved me because finally I understood what was quote unquote wrong. I had severe anxiety because my brain shuts down when it doesn't have a process for things. So when I learned that and started to develop processes, the anxiety went away. I had severe social anxiety because I had no framework for dealing with the world of humans. I went and studied social dynamics, understood the frameworks for human interaction, and then the anxiety disappeared. The insomnia was a result of that. A lot of my people problems came from me not understanding people because I don't have the natural wiring. It's more of a conscious process for me. So that was all really good. Whilst I was going through that journey, I was trying to understand what had gone wrong before, because the way that I created wealth before was using a model I invented, he says, called vision, purpose, faith, gratitude, which was a combination of a series of ideas that I'd been studying. I'd been studying mindfulness, visualization, manifestation, the esoterics and all that kind of stuff from about the age of 16 or 17. I started quite young. And begun applying those things, and that's what actually empowered me to create. And it worked, but then it stopped working suddenly, and I didn't understand why. So I lost everything at 20, went and built up another multi-million pound fortune with some other guys, lost that by the age of 24, at which point I was like, okay, maybe I've got this stuff wrong. I completely doubted this whole world. I was like, maybe I should have just listened to my mum, stayed at church, finished my degree and gone to work, instead of going off on this crazy path. And, I got to the point where I honestly was just like, there's no point bothering with any of this. I should just kill myself. And not passively, as in I was actively going through that process of trying to work out how to do it. And I thank God, the angels, spirits, the divine, and everyone that I wasn't in the US because I had no access to a gun. And the only reason why I didn't attempt through one of the means that were available to me is because I didn't want to fail at something else and be known as the person that not only had he failed and made this big mess of his life, he'd also failed to even bother to end his life. And that's what was running through my head. And off the back of that, the work that I do now around intention setting, around alignment, around my model of beyond intention evolved from a thought that came up during that time, which was the only way I'm going to be able to do this is if me, take up the responsibility to learn how to do it properly. And that incepted idea became, well, hang on a minute. And this wasn't conscious. This was happening over the course of months and years and kind of evolving and growing, that everything that I was trying to run away from, I was the only common thread, the common denominator in that too. And if I want to affect a change in my life, I need to focus on changing me, not blaming other people, places, and things.
There's a lot there to unpack.
I'm sorry, Justin.
I want to, do you mind if I get in your head a little bit? Because you seem like you have complete awareness around where you were in your headspace back then. I think this is important for a lot of people, especially, I don't know what's going on out in Cabo over there with the, with COVID, or is there anything happening, or is life normal out there?
It's not normal. There is a new normal, but there are certainly worse places to be quarantined and locked down.
Right now in New York, some background info. Yesterday, they closed down all the gyms and the salons again, and numbers around there. So, whatever. I mean, everybody has their own opinions on all this stuff.
Yeah.
But where I was going with this is, I think what's happening with a lot of mental situations right now is, depression feelings, or even, actual depression, anxiety, stress. A lot of people are going through that. So what I wanted to ask you is, like, during that time when you really were like planning this out in your head, which I fortunately, I can't relate to those exact feelings. I have had, depression moments, but not to that extreme. You mentioned that once you realized you were responsible for everything, do you know what was kind of like what you were expecting in your life at that moment? And, did you have these expectations that weren't being fulfilled? What was it exactly? Like, if you could pin it down.
But in terms of why I was like, let's just end it.
Why were you at that? Because you have so much awareness now around it. That's why I'm asking.
Here's the thing. I was so invested in the idea. Remember, this is pre-diagnosis as well. So an autistic brain works very much in binaries, ones and zeros. 1 + 1 = 2. There isn't much nuance in my mind. I don't really have gray areas. Everything is very, very set. So I can follow logical arguments. I can create logical arguments, which is great, except for those times when nuances are required, such as life is for living. That idea, just life is for living, doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't connect. Life is for living, just live your life. It doesn't work. Life has a purpose. There are things I'm here to do, which is great now that I'm purely purpose and mission led, because I'm very focused on that. And every day I'm asking myself, what can I do to expand into that? Not just, I'm going to go to the beach today. It's like, no, I'm going to the beach to recuperate, to re-energize, to connect with nature, so on and so forth. So at that time, without the context of knowing what the thought processes were, all I had was, I've screwed up completely now twice. Everything is gone. I have the shame, I have the failure, and I have my whole identity by then, for the best part of a decade, had been based around the fact that this is how reality works. I was convinced of that my model was the way of doing things. I've been preaching the gospel of it, not in a professional capacity, but to people, that this is the way to do it. People had said to me, that doesn't work. And I'd said, no, it does work. And I'd been an advocate for this way of life, and I was wrong. And I had nothing, like zilch, nothing. The thing is, I made my way from nothing before. I built myself from nothing and made my way from nothing before, but I had that belief that this model works. Now I had nothing. I'd let down my family. I'd not spoken to my dad. I didn't speak to my dad for 1.5 years once, because of an argument we'd had about me just not continuing my education and going off to do things the way I said I was going to do them. It was a mess, and I couldn't see any point in putting that mess back together. And actually, I saw I was going to be more of a burden than anything else. And so it's like, well, the logical thing from that place is to just take the burden off the board. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. And that would be very, very tough to be in. So, I won't bring. I went to a Tony Robbins event, Date with Destiny. He
Hmm.
brought up this person. Are you a Tony Robbins fan?
I'm a T-Rob fan. Yeah, he's on my. Would love to meet him and shake those big hands one day.
Yeah, he had a night, a suicidal night, and he brought a couple people on stage and wrote out like what was going in their mind and through their brain, and it just made sense that like if you're thinking that stuff that you know kind of like you were mentioning that like yeah, I mean anybody's really gonna want to like feel horrible right about themselves and their situation. So I totally understand that, and you are trying to help people that are whether they're there or wherever they are in life to break free of that and really see a different perspective through what is part of it is through this what is it called? See, transferring, reality
Yeah,
transferring.
reality trans,
This is a good
reality
transition to go from
transurfing.
there to here because I have to know a little. I tried Googling and looking up a little bit. And what is this about? What is you're a practitioner in this now?
So
What's
yes,
this?
I'm a certified instructor. I'm one of the English speaking ones. I've actually just now started producing videos for the YouTube channel as well, which is really cool.
Cool.
So transurfing is really interesting
For their
because
YouTube video, your YouTube channel or
yeah,
yours?
on their YouTube. So there's only one English speaking YouTube channel that's endorsed by Vadim Zealand, who's the creator of reality transurfing.
Okay.
So I'm one of his certified instructors through the ITI, the International Transurfing Institute, and I'm going to be producing videos for the YouTube channel, which is really cool.
Beautiful.
So it was really interesting when transurfing came into my life because when I look at all of the different modalities that are available, generally speaking, they tackle one piece of the puzzle. Meditation, primarily energy, spirit, but does also affect the mind. My teacher, Dr. Joe Dispenza, has proven that time and time again. When you're meditating, it changes the neural pathways, so on and so forth. But very few cover all of the bases, which is what my journey has been over the past nearly 20 years. It's been understanding how all of these pieces fit together. I have mind, body, soul, mental, spiritual, physical, all of this triumvirate when we go into the Hermetic teachings and they go into that a bit deeper. And I've spent time going and learning from people in those different areas in order to develop for myself and now eventually to teach others how to bring that together and live an abundant, joyful, purpose-driven life. And all these years of studying and going around and then I'd come upon transurfing and he's like, yeah, if you want to create your reality, it comes down to an intention, your energy levels, your thought quality, and your actions. When they come together, you create stuff. I was like, oh, no, I could have saved myself some time there, just coming and doing
There's that
this.
simple formula again,
Yeah.
right? Another
And
formula.
yeah, I mean, I wrote my book, Stepping Beyond Intention, which is all about my beyond intention paradigm. I break down about something I call the flow funnel, where I take people through a process of using the power of choice to step into alignment in those three areas using beyond intention. And so I wrote this book. I was so proud of myself. Like, yeah, I've got this great idea. I haven't seen it anywhere else. It's like Vadim was talking about this 15 years ago. I just hadn't chanced upon it. So it was really great to find a modality that so closely matches what I'd been teaching. And so it's great to have it in my toolkit, to have more developed ideas. He's a fabulously intelligent person, to have more advanced ideas. And he's gone a bit further. He goes beyond just that because he talks about model for reality itself and all kinds of other groovy stuff. So it's great to have that to pull on to support what I do, and also to be able to come and add some of my juiciness into his work in terms of what I'm supporting as an instructor.
Yeah, that's almost like it was almost like the universe was like speaking to you as you collided with this individual and
100%.
transurfing.
100%. 100%.
What can you give us like one of the powerful teachings of it, or one of the steps or
Sure.
processes, just to
Sure.
share what it's a little bit about,
So
or a story behind it with yourself? I don't know.
I'll give you a core idea, and I'll use this one because it's one that's often misunderstood. So it'd be great to have people that are stepping into maybe looking at transurfing from this, to have this concept. And intentions, Vadim teaches, fall into two camps. We have inner intention and outer intention. Now, the really cool thing about this, and I'll give the analogy that my teacher Renee always uses for this, is understanding how we can dance with the universe in a way where the universe does most of the heavy lifting, because we can create using our willpower, we can create with push. If we go to the work of Wallace D. Wattles, you can use a competitive lane to create, or you can work in harmony with the laws of the universe and harmony with the divine, and use the creative plane. So the competitive lane is more of that inner intention, push, pull. But then you've got outer intention, which is this really groovy space where things come to you because the universe is doing the heavy lifting. When we're using inner intention, our mind and our push energy, we're looking at the resources that we have. When we're looking at outer intention, we're looking at the infinite bounty of the universe and what that has available. With inner intention, I'm limited by who I know, what I have, what I own, what I have access to. Through outer intention, none of that comes into it because the infinite possibilities of the universe are available to me. Outer intention is a really beautifully crafted way to take the more popularized idea of the law of attraction, the more popularized idea of manifestation, and put it in a framework that actually works. Because I don't know about you, but I know 1,000,001 people that read The Secret, put a check for $1 million on the wall. That was 14 years ago, and they're still not paying the bills on time, right? Which is a big part of what I do, supporting people getting beyond putting the check on the wall and actually making it manifest. Reality Transurfing gives us those steps to step into a state where you can put the check on the wall and it actually shows up, because a check on the wall is representative of work that you've done to allow the universe to do what it wants to do, which is to give you all the abundance that you desire.
Yeah. And there's a word that comes to my mind is action.
Yeah.
Like taking action steps, right?
Yeah.
No knock against I don't even know if I should bring this up, but against the church. But like, I feel like it's always, the church's message is always hope, 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 hope without the actual action steps.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I feel like that kind of relates a lot to that.
100%.
Yeah.
But, I think people lose sight of faith, and that faith is an active thing. It's not this passive process. It's a work to train yourself. I mean, I believe that action is not just physical, it's also inner as well. Inner action, inner movement from point to point. That's work, me just doing my meditation, but then getting up and not carrying that meditation practice into new choices about how I'm feeling or what I'm thinking. Doesn't matter what I do physically different. If I haven't made that connective tissue, my mind isn't going to facilitate me witnessing that which I've gone out to create in my life. It's going to be the same. And then people say, oh, I'm not meditating anymore. I've been doing it for years now. Nothing's changed. Yeah, because the meditation facilitates you being available to make the change. It's not the change in and of itself.
If you need to.
Just go ahead. Sorry, just one sec.
You're okay.
Sorry, they were supposed to be here 3 days ago. Mañana showed up now to.
Are they okay?
Paint.
Is everything okay?
Yeah. They just need to paint the room, but then I need to move my wife out of that room so that they can go in and do the painting. But anyway.
Well, it's all good. You're sharing some gold nuggets here, and I totally believe, like, I'm with you on this, like, as far as manifestation and putting into action. And for a while, every morning I was listening to like 15 minutes of Creating Wealth and Abundance, and I would repeat what they said. It was a YouTube video. Mm-hmm. And I truly believe that when you do these things, and then you're also on top of that taking action where you're giving more than you're taking throughout mm-hmm. your day, mm-hmm. which, like, intentionally doing that, mm-hmm. it just your life seems to flow so much more.
Hmm.
And I think it's the consistency of these practices and consistency of action
Hmm.
that eventually leads to that $1 million check on the wall.
100%. I mean, I've seen this time and time again in my programs where we've got millionaires who have been taking these principles and applying them and actually doing it. And we're not talking about after years, we're talking about in months. People are building massive wealth because they are understanding that when I take action, that embodies and therefore facilitates me receiving that which I've been praying for, that which I've been meditating on, that which I've been chanting for, that which I've been, whatever my practice has been, then I get to have it. But if I'm not putting my hands out to receive it, it's just falling on the floor.
Yeah, I
And
have
there are a lot of people who've got it falling on the floor right now.
what why is let me yeah, this is kind of random, not random, but why I feel like the spiritual world, and I haven't even talked about this before, the spiritual aspect or idea, meditation, Buddhism, all that stuff, and then like the American dream, let's
Mm-hmm.
say, of which if you defined it, it'd probably be like massive wealth, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Basically.
right. I mean, let's be honest. They're trying to restructure the American dreams idea, but really what it is massive.
It's get paid.
Yeah, get paid to make a lot of money. Those two seem to bump heads a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Those worlds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why, and I don't know if there's an underlying message. Maybe you can elaborate a little more, but I know that like when I have more abundance or more money, like I enjoy having, income, like a good amount.
It's
It's
nice.
it's nice, right? It's not going to sit here and say it's not like, oh no, it's just as good at just being broke as it is
Yeah.
like having a lot. No, it's so how do like what do you think about that? That
I think if we just look at some facts, I think hopefully, my intention is that somebody hears this and clicks into it. The story that somebody bought into that they don't have to take any action, they heard about in a book that somebody went through the action process of writing and that you exchanged money for and probably found out about because somebody went through the business process of advertising and marketing. Or you learned about it because you went to an event, watched a live video, or listened to an audio, or bought a program that somebody got to you having created it. They took action. So somebody used action to sell you the story that you don't need to take any action. Like, I just want that to
bizarre, bizarre.
just let that let that sit in for a second. If we go to the worlds of religion, not so much Buddhism because they tend to be a bit more on the line with this, but if we look at more of the traditional faiths that tell that money is the root of all evil, then give up some of that gold, bro. Like, give up some of that evil gold. And like, people, like, there's this whole thing right now of like Jeff Bezos, if he gave away 80 billion and solved the world poverty problem, he'd still have 100 billion left or whatever it is. Except he hasn't got 80 billion. He's got shares. And if he sold those shares, then Bob and Sally and Sue, whose 401ks in the stock market, would tank because it's companies like Bezos, they're actually propping up the value of your portfolio right now. So let's just take that off for a second. If all of these world faiths that are preaching this money is the root of all evil came together, remember, Jeff's actually creating jobs. He's creating jobs. Lockdown would have been a mess without Amazon, and Amazon was his creation, right? What value are some of these other things actually doing in a general basis? They're not creating jobs, right? They're not actually giving people the ability to pay their bills and put food on the table. If they came together and put some money up, they could make a dent in world poverty. But nobody's looking over there. And I think it's because looking over there starts to just deconstruct the ideas that are supporting your belief in the first place. I think what's really happening is people are just holding on to ideas and looking for evidence that supports those ideas that they're holding on to. Money's the root of all evil. Well, if I don't hold on to that idea, then I have to reject everything else that comes from there. But my whole moral basis is being given to me from what I've learned over there. So I have to accept that as a whole and complete idea. these people are the opportunity for me to take their energy and put it somewhere else. So I'm going to push my blame, my pain, and my upset for what I haven't done, what I haven't achieved, what I haven't got to these people over here.
That makes sense. It's a great explanation.
My thoughts on it anyway, my two
Yeah.
pennies.
Yeah. And you have the whole idea of, well, I mean, you created a course. You have like a 3 steps to manifesting money, right?
Yeah, yeah, we've got the money game. We've got the money game,
Money
which has
game
been really
book,
cool.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, how to like, what is like one way to become more harmonious with money? Because money is just energy, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you could think
that's all it is.
everything's energy. This computer,
Mhm.
this everything, this whatever. My pen has energy.
Yeah,
Right? Everything
we
has
found something. Yeah,
something. So how do we align ourselves more? Because like alignment comes in, right? Harmonious
Mhm.
with being a money magnet.
So, I mean, I've done a free video, and the guys can go and hang out and grab the whole video. I've actually just re-recorded it recently, made
Where
it a
can
lot
we
more
find it?
comprehensive. Dreamwithdan.com/HMM.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get you links and stuff. But I've literally just like 35 minutes, and I've really gone to town. I had a version before that was like about 10 minutes long. This one, I really, really have gone into it and spoken more to what's going on in the world today with uncertainty and all that kind of good stuff.
Nice.
But really what it's coming down to is the idea that my energy is off for a reason. Right now, for example, we've got anxiety, we've got fear, we've got that uncertainty, which is messing with our emotional state and throwing off our vibration. So practices such as meditation facilitates me getting that lined up, getting that solid so that I can actually start making some moves from a place of expansion versus making moves from a place of contraction. The next point is always going to be, what's my quality of thought? The actions that we make, the choices that we take, which eventually are going to lead to our reality, are all based on what's happening at an unconscious level. And I think when people understand that the unconscious mind is it's a terminator. Cool fact, you've never failed at anything. None of the listeners have ever failed at anything. All that's happened is that the success that we achieved has been against an idea sitting at an unconscious level, which we don't always consciously desire. I don't desire to have lack, but the program that I'm running on unconsciously is lack, and that will always win out. So developing a relationship with our unconscious mind where we can start to communicate our new choices and our new ideas is imperative for us to be able to change our life. And then, of course, the action step. What am I doing? Am I showing up every day in alignment with my beliefs about how to create wealth? Or am I still following somebody else's story? Am I trying somebody else's strategy? Or am I learning enough about myself to know where I'm in my groove, where I have my flow, and making choices and taking action from that place? If I'm not a speaker, I'm not going to be on podcasts talking about my work. I'm going to be writing articles. But I'm okay on my feet. So I'll hop on a podcast or two, go out there, have some impact and touch people's lives through speaking. I have flow there. If I had, I don't know, no disrespect for those who've got a stammer or a stutter, but if I wasn't able to properly communicate myself through that medium, it wouldn't matter how many times I stood on a stage or hopped on a microphone. The clarity of thought that's going to facilitate me delivering my message just is not going to be there. I should stick with something else. So those are really what it comes down to with those 3 pieces. It's, where is my energy off? What tools and resources can I step into to create an emotional alignment, a vibrational alignment to what I'm seeking to manifest? Can I start communicating with my mind so that it's working with what I actually consciously desire rather than my programs? And am I taking actions that are aligned with my beliefs about what I actually think is going to work and who and where I am?
You're super smart and articulate. Here's what I want to give you that compliment, because
Thank you.
what can happen with, and myself included, is you're very concise with your message. Instead of just running off in tangents and like saying things.
I have tangents, don't worry. We call them tangents. I have tangents.
Well, I mean, it's like, and it's really impressive to see. Is that, I want to ask you, Is that because of all the practice you've done, or is it just, I mean, obviously it's because you truly believe it and you feel it and you're aligned with it and it's your integrity is with it. But have you, I mean, is there a lot of practice that's gone along with explaining this to other people that you've worked with?
I think it's the way my brain works, honestly. It's one of the things I get to be grateful for my Asperger's for, because
Uh,
everything works in my head sequentially. Every time I'm
ah,
having a conversation with someone, it's a very conscious process, because without that, my brain just stops working. I'm unable to work. So when I'm having a conversation with someone, I'm literally putting pins. I'm taking pauses and allowing space for exchange, because I don't have that natural capacity. So to some extent, there is a practice, but there's a practice in communication, because communicating with people and having relational engagements with people is something that I actually had to learn to do.
let's go back to that.
Mhm.
You had to put a framework around, you created a framework around social interaction, you said earlier.
Can I
What?
say I didn't create it? Can I tell you a secret? I actually went into the pickup artist world and learned how to talk to women.
Who can you share like can you share a person or two? Because I know a few people like personally in that world, and I'm wondering if there's some crossover. Do you know one or two pickup artists that you followed or grabbed
Yeah.
info
So
from?
the very first one that I found, and the one that made the most sense to me, was the mystery method.
The mystery method.
Yeah, I mean, we're going back to, I think Mystery was like the person who first kicked off the pickup artist world.
Oh, okay.
Then you had like Neil Strauss popularized it with his book, The Game.
Mm.
And then you had people like David D'Angelo. There was another guy who was a bit dark, so I kind of stayed away from him. It was a bit manipulative. He was like using NLP to like Jedi mind trick women into bed or whatever.
Oh my
But
gosh.
I was like, yeah, that's not my stuff. But those frameworks, like the 9 steps of the mystery method, all that I did was, so you got the 3 steps of the approach, the 3 steps of comfort building, and the 3 steps of the sexual, the like moving into sex. And basically, he said, oh, the middle section is where you build that comfort. And if you don't do it right, then you're just going to get put in the friend zone. So all I did was deliberately put myself in the friend zone. So most of my friends to this day are still women, because I learned how to make the approach, because I learned how to actually engage with this human form of female, and then just deliberately friend zone myself. And then that's it.
Deliberately friend zone yourself. Like
Deliberately
you,
friend zone myself.
so you can, so you know, like you like the formulas out there where you can like either friend zone yourself or
Mhm.
not friend zone yourself and get to those the next
Yeah.
three
Mhm.
sexual desire parts.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If there's no sexual tension and there's too much comfort built, then it doesn't ignite into a sexual attraction. So all that you do is don't ignite into a sexual attraction, and then it forms into a friendship bond, and that's it.
Wow, interesting. So, I have a question for you in that space.
Mhm.
Did you decide, were you like at one point considering, I'm learning a lot about this. It's very interesting. It's working for me. Maybe I
Mhm.
can teach others this. Did you ever have that thought at all or no?
No. Interestingly, I didn't. I actually didn't actually think about teaching anybody anything until I had my big moment like 3.5 years ago. Up until that time, I wasn't interested in teaching people. uh, I've been working on a book around beyond intention for more than a decade, but initially it's just because I wanted to tell my story. It was more about the egoic telling of my story and, setting the record straight versus wanting to be of service. When the service piece came in, I was very clear on what I wanted to do, which was to teach people these tools to create their reality and actually have a life that's worth living.
And that's what caused you to fulfill your book, right?
Yeah,
Finish your book. Is
that's that's when I was able to do that.
once you get out of that, like you said, egoic and went more into the intention of serving,
Serving.
then your book was, isn't that interesting?
Then it clicked into place.
That's 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 a that's a moment, right?
Oh
A
yeah.
moment in life.
hmm
What was the moment that you decided to align yourself more with the like serving or giving space?
So I had very much of a Jonah and the whale kind of experience. I got back into more spiritual communities about 5 years ago through Dr. Joe Dispenza's community.
Okay.
Um, I didn't even know I was coming into spirituality. That's what made me laugh. That when I first, I'm not going to get into the story about how I ended up getting his book, but someone was bugging me to read his book for like 2 years. So I get the book, they bug me, I read the book. I'm like, this is so cool. I'm going to use this to make loads more money. I wasn't thinking about spirituality. I read You Are the Placebo. It's like, this is going to take my game to like the next level. I'm loving this. And then I've had a practice of personal development for a very long time. I aim to go to an in-person event or do like some kind of course once a month. I'm like, oh, he's going to be in Europe next month, or whatever. So I bought a ticket to go to Germany, went to Berlin, went and gone to this event thinking I'm going to learn more about, this placebo stuff. And then this guy starts taking us on this crazy meditation ride through energy centers. I'm like, screw money. I just want to meditate. I don't care about this business stuff. I just want to do this meditation stuff. So then I went on that whole journey. And as I was in that world and started having conversations with people and saying, have you thought about this? And have you thought about that? And kind of giving them some of the beyond intention nuggets, time and time again, they were like, oh my God, like, I'd love to work with you on this. And at the time I had my successful business. I wasn't really interested. It's like, I'm doing okay, bro. I'm not going to be stopping my trade to come and do some coaching or to be a teacher or whatever. Yeah. And then the voice got louder and louder and louder. I finished the next draft of Stepping Beyond Intention. I was really happy with it, but it didn't quite click just yet. And then I said, do you know what, universe? Okay, I'm going to focus on using these tools. I'll make myself a little nest egg. And then I'll walk away from what I'm doing now and I'll come and do this teaching stuff, not to make money from it, but literally just, I'll come and share this Beyond Intention stuff. I'll get the book out. I'll do a podcast and blah, blah, blah. So I used the tools. I managed to put together this in a very short period of time, like this massive number of opportunities that were signed on the dotted line. I had like $7.5 million of signed contracts for money that was going to come to me. Yeah. I'd like negotiated trade finance for this oil company in Hong Kong that was going to make me 5 million. And I had this other thing, it was going to be like $1 million. It was like, and it all happened in a really short period of time. And I literally credit the work that I'd been doing at that time to actually bring it to the forefront. So then I fly off, go abroad, go to a Dr. Joe event. Actually, I'm there for 4 days. My phone's off. My girlfriend at the time, I was like, you're not going to hear from me. I'm just going to be going deep in. And over that 4 days, every single one of those transactions fell on their face and fell apart for no reason whatsoever. The Hong Kong company, who had a Chinese minister on their board, lost their foreign exchange license. It was just ridiculous. And when I got home and I saw all of these emails and all of this stuff, I was like, oh, do you know what? I got it. The still small voice was like, see, Dan, you didn't trust that you were going to be taken care of. So you set aside you put together all these plans because you thought that you needed to take care of you, inner intention versus outer intention. You need to take care of you. But if you just trusted, all of this and more is going to be okay. And so I said, you know what? I get it. I made the choice then and there. I'm not going to make a nest egg. I'm just going to go for it. And so that's when I committed to finishing the draft of the book. All of a sudden, like, I made some money. And as soon as I went to another event, when I had this massively powerful meditation experience where I actually got to see the life I'm living now. I'm living right now the life that I saw in that meditation, which was just everything was taken care of. Everything's lovely. I'm happy every day, just on fire for life. And that day I closed down my email accounts. I took down my website and I just said, I'm not even messing around. Like, I don't care. There's money on the table. I'm done. I'm out. That was the 13th of February. And I haven't looked back since that day. And here I am now.
Wow. That's impressive. Yeah. So the reason I'm kind of speechless is because you almost mimicked or what my life a little bit.
Beautiful.
Like, in sort of in the transition stage of trying to say, okay, I'm going to build this nest egg, then I'm going to go all in on this business, and as I try to build this nest egg, like, I keep getting knocked back down. Like, what the hell? It's starting to try. And then, wow. And then you just, to have the I don't want to say cojones or balls on this podcast, but to have the courage and strength and bravery to jump in like that and close all your other stuff down is incredible. Like, that's not easy. How are you faring now? Are you just you're just trusting everything, obviously? How are things?
I mean, that was a couple of years ago. It was really interesting because things just came in and I had like a couple $100,000. And I literally, I ran into that. I was flying around the world. I was teaching beyond attention, doing free workshops, and I got the podcast started, and I was doing all of the things, and there was just a lot of trusting and just giving and just being of service and
Yeah.
literally just going for it. And then I was in Scotts Valley, California. I did a workshop out there with my dear friend Diane. We did a combined workshop. She does equus therapy with horses for biofeedback, and we did this whole thing where we did beyond intention, and we used the horses to like bring into it, and it was just a really cool day. And one of the attendees, who's since become a dear friend and a great mentor of mine, Barry, we're driving along and he sees I'm literally, I've given up everything, right? I don't have a house. I'm just living out of a suitcase, a suit carrier, and a backpack, going from place to place. And he looks at my bags in the back and he goes, you're really going for it, aren't you? Like, yeah. He goes, this is all of your things. Yeah, this is all my stuff. And I was just in the groove of it. And he said, so, how are you doing for money? Because so you're giving away a lot. I said, yeah, everything gets taken care of. And I don't remember the exact wording, but I remember roundabout what he said, which is that, have you ever thought that your mission is being denied its full expression by you not allowing more abundance into your life? And the conversation went on, and he was just like, I keep getting this hit. And since then, I know Barry a lot more. I know he's really plugged in. Like when Barry speaks up with that kind of little thing in his voice, he's getting a message, he's getting a download. And I understood that by me not opening up to receive as much as I was giving, I was holding back just how far I could take this message. And so I made the choice then, okay, I'm going to give that some attention and allow some abundance in. I built up a 6-figure coaching business in 4 months from then. I've reopened my consulting business earlier this year. That does really, really well. We're doing some real estate stuff. I've got an energy company that I had frozen when I sort of left everything. That's getting some really great opportunities. We're doing really, really decently now. I get to live in Cabo, which is kind of cool. But it's all of those things really just facilitate me being able to do what I want, which is I get to do this all day and not have to think about if my kid's going to be able to go to college or not, right? If someone gives me a call now, hey, we need you in this part of the world, we'd love for you to come and speak. I don't have to say, well, how much are you paying me? Or I have to think about that. If my heart calls me to go and do the work, I hop on a plane and go and do the work. I have the freedom to do that, which is for me what abundance really is. That I don't have to ask how much you pay me or what's in it for me. I can just answer the call of life, answer the call of the universe, and go.
And you feel that in your heart, your gut. Is that your main spots that you're making those decisions from?
So I follow human design. I'm sacral. So my gut response is how literally my body communicates the vibration of the universe in terms of giving me direction. So when that's a yes in my gut, I go for it.
Yeah. And I think I've had so many aha moments. Can you say that sentence earlier if you remember exactly that
yeah, it's like
to you?
Have you ever thought or wondered if your mission is being denied its full expression because you're not letting more abundance into your life?
I have a group that I meet with every Friday of meditation teachers that I graduated with. And we just talked about that.
Wow.
Last week,
like
it was the first time it came up last Friday. And that he would have been a great person to come on and talk to us about that, because we all would have been like, so cool. If you could go back, Dan, and tell your 18-year-old self anything, any advice, any message, what would you say to him?
Can I tell you something? I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't say anything. I'd hide behind a corner and maybe just look from a distance and see how goofy I looked. Because cool. And this is a big part of, when I had that meditation in the mountains of Santa Fe, New Mexico on the 13th of February, that a lot of my journey, I was grateful for what had come as a result. I was grateful that I'd become a more humble and nicer person from all of my experiences. I was grateful for the fact that I'd come on this journey. I was grateful for better respect and love for my family, that my Asperger's was diagnosed. But there was other stuff that I'd swept under the rug. But what came to me in that moment is that even the crappy parts that I didn't like so much, every single one of them contributed to me being on the path that brought me to that moment where I was feeling this indescribable joy for something that hadn't even happened yet. And it was then that I realized what gratitude really is. It's not grateful for the bits that I kind of think that I like. It's accepting all of it and recognizing that at this level of consciousness, we can't see the whole playing field. We can't. We've never even seen our own face. We've seen pictures and reflections of it. We've not even seen our own face. And yet we presume that we can see the magnitude and expanse of the infinite possibilities of the universe. We can't. So we don't know that the crap that's in front of us now is actually the most perfect and beautiful path to wherever we're going to end up later. And so everything that's happened since 18, leading up to 18, has brought me to here. And I wouldn't give up now for anything. So I wouldn't invite him to change anything. I wouldn't give him any advice. I'd let him go and have the adventure.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. Where can people find you to work with you? Anybody listening?
Dreamwithdan.com is where it's all at.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
podcast there, books, everything, the free videos and resources, and we do workshops and stuff like that are free and all that kind of good stuff. And when people come into our world and they want to take the step a bit further, then there's opportunities to go deeper. But we always invite people to come and taste what they can get as part of being a part of our communities for free.
Great. Thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your wisdom and everything you're doing. Thank you.
This has been a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.